Donald Trump sat down with America's biggest podcaster, Joe Rogan, for a 3-hour conversation, and it all kicked off with a discussion about corruption in the media.
Did you just assume because people loved you on The Apprentice, they were going to love you as a president?
I figured it would be so easy. You know, it's
well,
very
it probably
interesting.
would have been if the media didn't attack you the way they did. If they didn't conflate you with Hitler. I mean, even today, like Kamala was talking about you and Hitler. They're going to take what you said about Robert E. Lee. Oh, Donald Trump wishes the South won.
That's right. He loves Robert E. Lee.
They love to take things out of context and distort things.
But they don't even have to take them out. They make them up entirely. Okay,
they do that too.
Now, I think it's fair to say that there's been no love lost between the mainstream media and Trump. And I think it's also fair to say that the media has repeatedly tried to link Trump to Hitler. Just recently, Time magazine wrote a piece about Trump following a long tradition of holding political rallies at Madison Square Garden. That piece talked about Democrats and Republicans, as well as Nazis and communists, using the garden as a rallying ground. But when MSNBC picked it up, it connected Trump's rally solely to a Nazi rally 85 years ago and stripped away all the other context.
But that jamboree happening right now, you see it there on your screen, in that place is particularly chilling because in 1939, more than 20,000 supporters of a different fascist leader, Adolf Hitler, packed the garden for a so-called pro-America rally. A rally where speakers voiced anti-Semitic rhetoric from a stage draped with Nazi banners. Against that backdrop of history, Donald Trump is once again turning Madison Square Garden into a staging ground for extremism.
Trump also contrasted his treatment on The View from before he ran for president and afterwards.
I was very popular, and all those people loved me. I mean, some of these women, they're so stupid. And Joy, she would, every time she'd see me, I'd be in the theater or something, and she'd, you have to be on the show again. Come on, let's go.
She loved you.
She loved me.
Okay, so here I would make a distinction between liking a person and liking their policies. Before Trump got into politics, he got his fair share of bad press as a New York City developer. But at least on the talk show circuit, he seemed to be pretty popular. Here's that clip he was referring to where co-host Joy Behar talks about trying to get him on the show after seeing him at an Adele concert.
So Joy, you had quite a night. Who were you hanging out with last night?
I went to the concert, Adele's concert at Radio City Music Hall yesterday. The main thing about the concert is that Donald Trump was there.
Oh.
And there we are.
You and Donald?
There we are, the Donald and me. He was sitting, he was there with Melania, who happens to be a stunner. What do you mean?
What is...
His hair looks good.
It's an angelic glow on top of your head. It's right there.
The lighting.
Can you imagine sitting behind him? You have to like...
Because it's like, what? That's not Donald. Where's his hair? But it's there, I guess.
Well, I think he got a trim, and it looks good, and he lost weight. He actually looks very good. And so Steve said to me, go over and book the Donald. My husband is becoming the booker of this show.
He's your agent, too.
So I went over there and I booked him. He's supposed to come on. I'm going to call him later, so get ready, Donald.
That's right.
Come on, Donald. Come on.
And bring your other hair. I miss it. You know?
So that was in 2015, and you can see what Trump is talking about with this promo. It's for an upcoming appearance he did on The View in 2015.
Hello?
Who is it?
Who do you think it is?
Is it the Donald?
So what happens when Donald Trump calls in to speak with the women of The View? Hold on tight, people. Donald Trump, The View, today on ABC.
So fast forward to today, and here's what The View thinks about Trump now.
He doesn't care if you live or die, babe. He doesn't care.
The delusion of saying that he has kindness in his heart.
He's authoritarian. He's ultra-nationalist. That all fits. Saying he's a threat to democracy is not hyperbole.
We all want Donald Trump to lose. And we know how to take the trash out, Donald Trump. Trash that has been collecting since 2016. And that's you, Donald Trump.
So quite a turn, but look, this is why you don't discuss politics in polite company. It just divides people, and I don't find it shocking that the co-hosts on The View would like Trump as a person, but not like his policies once he started running for president. Now, Whoopi Goldberg clapped back at Rogan for his portrayal of her and how much she liked Trump before he ran for president. Here's what Rogan said.
I wanted to play this, but we decided we shouldn't play it because it could get copyright strike, and we don't want to get the episode. We don't want anybody to have any sort of way to get it down.
Sure.
But it was the episode of you when you're on The View, and I think it was 2015 or 2006, like when you were running for president.
Right.
And you got introduced as our friend Donald Trump.
That's right.
Whoopi Goldberg gives you a big hug and a kiss. Joy Behar gives you a big hug. Barbara Walters gives you a big hug. They all loved you.
So I'm not worried about getting a copyright strike, so I'm going to play the video for you.
Donald Trump is a billionaire, a real estate mogul, and a television star. But does he really want to add President of the United States to his resume? A lot of people would like him to. Please, let's find out, and please welcome my friend, Donald Trump. We're so happy to have you. Whenever you're on with us, we're very happy.
We love it.
Okay, so that's what he's talking about. Whoopi points out that that clip is from 2011, not 2015, as Rogan says, so Trump hasn't yet gotten into politics. The other issue Whoopi has with Rogan's description is how glad they are to see him.
So, Barbara was her usual polite self, as she was with every guest. But did I look warm and fuzzy? Was that a warm and fuzzy welcome from her? But because I respect Barbara, you know, she said be polite to guests no matter what. Yes. And for the most part, I got through. I did it like I do now.
So her face in that moment, I would say, did look rather nonplussed. But it's also true that she gave him a kiss on the cheek, maybe just to be polite. He was doling them out to all the hosts, so it might have looked awkward if she didn't reciprocate. But what she doesn't explain is why, if she has been so antagonistic toward him, she said this.
I love you, Donald, I'm telling you. I love you too. I think that's the...
So she clearly says, Donald, I love you too. But then goes on to rebut his point, which happens to be that Obama should show his birth certificate. Now this, as you probably know, is a very controversial issue, and clearly Whoopi and Trump are on different sides of it. But to me it reads more like a disagreement between friends than enemies. Nevertheless, Whoopi says she never liked Trump, even then.
Look, this show has allowed all kinds of people to come on. People we agree with, people we don't agree with. I've not been a fan of this man's. I don't like how he talks to us. I don't like how he talks to the nation. So I have not really had much to say until he started running for president. Then I could say everything I needed to say. My face said everything else.
That was a good side eye.
However, when co-host Anna Navarro asks her about her first impression of Trump being negative, she skirts the issue entirely.
You say you disliked him from even before that, when you first had an encounter with him?
Well, he's been in New York forever. He's a New York person and been a New York character. But that being a character on television is a lot different than being the president of the United States.
She seems to be making the point that I made earlier, which is that you can like someone but not their politics. And when Trump got into politics, that seems to be where the relationship went south. And not to belabor this point, but Whoopi also claims that Barbara Walters was just being polite when she introduced Trump as her friend.
Please, let's find out, and please welcome my friend, Donald Trump.
Now, maybe she was, but I would say there are a million ways she could have been polite in her introduction. She didn't have to call him a friend or say this.
We're so happy to have you. Whenever you're on with us, we're very happy.
We love it.
Now, Walters and Trump did know each other. When Walters died in 2022, Trump wrote on Truth Social, she was the greatest of them all, by far. I knew her well. One of the headline topics Trump and Rogan discussed was interference in the 2020 election. Rogan asked Trump to lay out all the evidence for why he thinks he won, and one of the things he says influenced the election was not just the bad press he got, but the dishonest press.
We can't have corrupt elections, and we can't have open borders. You need to have a country. You need borders. You need fair elections. And I'll tell you the other thing you need a free and fair press. I've had many people go on CNN and they called and said, I don't know what to do. They want to pay me a lot, but I have to be negative on you. I said, be negative. That's okay.
Now, whether that's true is hard to say. We don't know who he's referring to here, but if The View is anything to go by, that could very well be the case. There are two Republicans on The View, Alyssa Farah Griffin and Anna Navarro. Neither of them are Trump supporters, even though Farah Griffin worked for Trump in the White House in 2020. The Republican co-host before them, Meghan McCain, the daughter of John McCain, was famously a never Trumper, and they have been the Republicans on The View since 2017. Now, Trump specifically brought up CNN, saying it hired his friend Sean Duffy, and then later furloughed him when he actually supported Trump on air.
There are guys on like CNN, they won't hire them. Sean Duffy is a congressman, and he retired. He got a good job with CNN, but he was only positive about Trump. So they kept him, but they would never put him on. I mean, I respect what he did. He could have gone, negative. I tell people, go negative. Let my friends make the money.
Well,
it's just so crooked. The press is so crooked.
It's crooked, but it's also they're diminishing themselves. They're killing all their credibility, and it's opening up the credibility to new media. It's opening up the credibility to independent media.
Duffy was hired in 2019 after he left Congress, but after some controversial comments he made about Ukraine, he seemed to be kept off the air. Former CNN boss Jeff Zucker famously said it was hard to find people who will come on and support the president's point of view, but that those voices are important. Was he just saying that, or was it because there were so many people at CNN who didn't want any Trump voices on the air? The other media tidbit from the Rogan-Trump interview that I thought was interesting was the rumored appearance on the podcast of Kamala Harris.
Can you imagine Kamala doing this show?
I could imagine her doing the show.
She'd be laying on the floor.
She was supposed to do it, and she might still do it, and I hope she does.
She's not going to do it.
I will talk to her like a human being. I would try to have a conversation with her.
If she did this kind of an interview with you, I hope she does, because it would be a mess. She'd be laying on the floor comatose. You'd be saying, call in the medics.
I think we'd have a fine conversation. I think I'd be able to talk to her. I wouldn't try to interview her. I'd just try to have a conversation with her and hopefully get to know her as a human being.
The Harris campaign told NBC News that we talked with Rogan and his team about the podcast. Unfortunately, it isn't going to work out right now because of the scheduling of this period of the campaign. Now, there's a lot more to this interview. Obviously, I just picked out the parts that related to the media, but let me know what you thought about it. Did you watch the whole 3 hours? I did, and I have to say, I really like the long-form nature of it because it allows for a much deeper conversation, and there's nothing worse than electing a president when you don't really know what they're thinking. But let me know what you thought of it. Once again, I'm Holly Kellum, and you're watching Newspeak.